Hi, welcome to the Sifu Mimi Chan Show. Thanks for joining the conversation. Hello, Chen. Lovely to see you.
Good to see you too.
Thanks so much for joining me on the podcast for an extended conversation.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me. We'll
Of
talk.
course. Yes. I mean, I was teasing everybody as I progressed through that press junket that I felt like I was speed dating the Warrior cast, which was kind of cool, but at the same time a little overwhelming, I have to say.
Yeah, we're not like we suck. Okay, like we're not that much fun. Like a
Oh
speed
no.
dating with anybody else would be a lot more fun.
No, that's not true. It was actually awesome. It's just that there was like 2 to 3 of you per room and I had 10 minutes. And this is my preferred platform where we can chat and get to know each other. And I actually think I was the problem. I'm like, how am I going to do my normal 1 hour in like 3 minutes with everybody? So I
Oh, really?
appreciated the opportunity.
It didn't seem like it though. You seem like super relaxed, just like being mode.
What could
Sometimes they have
possibly
like
go wrong?
we have none of the people in the junket the other day, but like I've had some interviews where they're like literally like reading. It's like trying to read off a baking list and
Oh,
questions, and we're like, oh, and we're like, I feel like a prisoner in there, you know?
all right. Well, I appreciate that I didn't make you all feel like prisoners. We'll put that in the win checkbox.
Yeah.
I mean, because
A win is a win.
a win is a win. I'm gonna take it either way. I mean, this is my passion project, right? So I'm not even like I always tease. I'm like I'm not even a real, podcaster journalist. I mean, now though I've been doing this over 6 years, so I could say I've got some experience. But really, this is just born out of passion, and I'm so fortunate I've gotten to talk to some of the most amazing people. So it's been really
Wow.
amazing. Yeah, it's been a great
Insane.
experience.
It's been really really fun. Just I loved you instantly. Would love to want to have like a this is like an extended date. This is an
That's
extended.
right. That's right. That's what we've already gotten to know each other and we're moving forward with this. So
Yeah, yeah.
um
This is second date.
yeah, second date. Love it. Love it. Well, I really loved your character, of course, and in many of the characters you've played on screen. And I was really interested in learning a little bit more about you. And I was fascinated to see that you were, born in Japan, grew up and lived in China for a bit, but then of course relocated to Memphis of all
Yeah,
places and went to
yeah.
school in Boston. I know you're out on the West Coast and I was just like, wow, you're such a human of the world, but I was curious like what to you really feels like home?
To me, I guess just because I've been traveling since I was very little, I'm an explorer at heart. I think I just feel like at home when I'm on the road.
Yeah.
Does
So
that
you're a
make
bit of a
sense?
nomad.
Yeah, and I'm not like saying that I would, I just want to like give up all earthly possessions and just like kind of live for man. But there is something to be said about, I just love to explore new places. And fortunately, I've had the wonderful opportunity to do so through work, through my job.
Yeah.
And yeah, it seems like in the last 4 or 5 years, they've crisscrossed the world a little bit.
Yes, definitely. Do you have kind of a favorite that you've gotten to work and play in? Because I know that especially if you're on a more extended set, that you'll get a little downtime. Where sometimes I know you guys fly in and fly out, and you don't even get to explore. But is there a favorite place you've been? Because I love travel as well.
I don't know. South Africa was gnarly. It was just took the cake. I've never seen, it's Mama Africa. Africa is really, really, and until you've actually been there and just experienced like life there, it's hard to describe. There's no place like it in the world, and especially South Africa. Cape Town was, I mean, it was really stunning, but obviously after the shoots, a lot of us are like we're gonna like take full advantage and like bring our families and friends. We're gonna like go in and like explore a little bit afterward if we have time, right? And I think probably one of the highlights for me was just being able to go on safari.
Mm,
Yeah, like you're out in the bush
100%.
and you just feel like I mean, first off, the safari, the nature park is. I think it's they said it was like bigger than Israel, or I think it's the size of like
I
bigger than New
wouldn't
Jersey.
doubt it. Yeah,
Yeah,
the just the size of that continent as a whole, you're just overwhelming.
so I think that to me was one of the highlights because I have never felt that present
Mhm.
in my whole life, and because you're just out there in nature as far as
Yeah.
the eye can see.
Yeah. And you also have an affinity for wildlife because I know that that is one of your, preferred
Yeah.
charities and so that must have really kind of been so just kind of incredible. Is there certain animals that you were really excited to see that you got to see? And is there any that you missed?
And for me, it sounds kind of weird because everybody's like, I want to see the lion, the
Yeah.
leopard, like the big
The big
charismatic.
five. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to see a hippo. I
Okay.
love I love hippos,
Okay.
and
Okay.
I think
And you
find them
got to?
hilarious. Yeah, 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 whole family of hippos,
Yeah.
and actually they if you're in like a safari area, like where it's like quote unquote, technically it's like a resort or something, they're not gonna let you just walk around at night. They have to
Right.
actually escort you to your place.
Yeah, for
You know,
safety.
because I was like, well, why are you escorting us? It's only like, maybe like 20 meters, 10 meters down that way. He's like, well, like the hippos do walk around at night. You might run into
Oh.
one.
And they are
So,
vicious. Like, don't let the hippos fool you. They can be pretty vicious. I've seen some
oh yeah,
crazy
oh
videos.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the size of a Jeep. I
Yeah.
mean, they're big,
Yeah.
they're big, and
Yeah.
so at night every now and then you'll just hear like the, and you're like, well, what is that? It's a hippo. Yeah,
Oh my
yeah, it's a
gosh, it's
hippo.
so much fun. I cannot wait. I actually if everything goes well, I should be there in August and hanging out with Langley and yeah, he promised to
Oh
spend a day with
wow!
me. And so yeah, I've been really fortunate. Langley and I have actually become quite friends and he's just sold me on South Africa so much that I'm like I
Oh
have to
my
go.
God!
So
Yeah,
yeah, so
I'll
I'm
have to give
getting
you a
tips from you
whole.
right now,
I'll have to
selfishly.
give you. I have to give you a whole list
Please. Yes, yes.
of restaurants
Yeah, I was
and
gonna say I'm really into food, so bring it on. Yeah.
yo, that the food. You
Yeah.
must have some of the local food too.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
It is for sure on my list. And that
yeah,
is kind of one of the cool things that you get to do because you get to travel and see all these places, but I always feel that food just connects the culture so much. Like when you're in a place and you get the local food, that's really where you feel like you're submerged a bit, right? And so is there a
yeah,
favorite
yeah.
dish you've had that you've enjoyed or one of the top, 10 or something that you wish
Oh
everyone could
yeah,
try this?
I really I don't know where you're gonna get it, but you're gonna have to ask some locals. I have to ask around for you. But we ate. They call it in Fosa inyama yentroko.
Okay.
It's sheep's head.
Okay. Wow.
Just cut it and then you eat it and with like some salt and dip it. You just eat it. And
Okay, okay,
it's like roasted, and
okay.
it's like a delicacy. And oh yeah, it's if you ever had like sheep's head, it's awesome.
Okay,
It's awesome.
I'm
No,
pretty
because
adventurous, so I'll try. Yeah.
yeah, like the in like Mexican cuisine they have like cabeza,
Hmm,
the like
hmm.
yeah, it's like that, but you get a
Okay.
whole.
Wow. So they actually does it look like a sheep's head or it's just sauteed and or you're looking at like,
You can get
like in
them. You can
Chinese
have
cuisine, you're
them.
getting a whole pig.
They can have both. You can have them
Okay.
actually take out the meat for you,
Hmm.
and but like yeah, you could have it just look
Wow.
nice.
Okay. So it depends how
Yeah, yeah,
squeamish you get with your food.
Yeah. You can. It's delicious.
I'm sure. I trust you. I mean, you seem like you're pretty passionate about it. I mean, and it's kind of funny. Last time we spoke off air, you and I were kind of talking about some similarities between you and your character you play in Warrior, and I noticed he's
Yeah.
like always eating, and so I was
Yeah.
like, does the real Chen like food just as much as Hong likes food? Like I was like wondering, what are your
Yeah,
similarities?
I don't do this with all my roles, but I like to do it more often than not of just, I guess, like funneling in all the regular experiences that you had and then just putting it into the character or putting into the life of it,
Right.
and a lot more often than not, it actually kind of makes sense.
Hmm.
And I was like, yeah, I love to explore, I love to eat. And basically, when I got the role, they were like, well, how do you want Hong to look? We don't have any desire. We have no like physical vision of this guy. And if you want to be fat, you want to be skinny, you want to be buff. What do you want? And I was like, you know, I was like, well, you know what? If I haven't, if I'm knowing what I know about Chinese history, if I know that time period, I mean, this guy is like probably actually kind of hungry. He's hungry. People are like, I'm hungry to fight. I'm hungry to do a good job. No, he's actually hungry. He's mostly just fighting for, a bowl of rice at the end of the day. And so I was like, hey, I'm in this new place. I don't like to cook. I'm gonna eat every fucking thing. I'm gonna eat
I love it.
every fucking thing. I'm gonna try every fucking thing. And like, wouldn't that be kind of fun? And that was gonna start becoming like I don't know when they picked up on it. It was never a discussion,
Oh, okay.
but they can feel it, man. They can feel it. I swear. I think they can feel it. They can.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
they're
because
like,
I
well,
noticed that
yeah.
right away about him. And then just a little bit I've spoken to you. And then of course the one question I really got to ask in the junket was like about survival, what you fight for, and you're like, food. I mean, basically hungry. And I was like, I see that. And then just
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I said, knowing you for like 10 minutes, I'm like, boy, you seem like you really enjoy food. So I was wondering like where that
Yeah,
crossover was.
and it's like a wonderful thing. What I think about Hong is like he's not a glutton, right? He's
Right,
not like
right.
a glutton, but he's also, there's something to be said about like, the realm of earthly delights, right?
Yes,
Like
yes,
you
of course.
enjoy, you
Yes, he does
enjoy.
enjoy. He does
I
enjoy.
like hear like fucking awesome where they're like, oh, I gotta be like ripped and shit. I'm like, okay. I think I'm just gonna have this lobster or these oysters. That's what I'm gonna do,
I love
and
it. I love it. It,
that was I think that was what was the most, that was really really fun. Yeah, especially
yeah.
Chinese people, man, we eat.
Yes, I mean it's the first thing you walk into a house like, have you eaten yet? It's like the first phrase, right? I mean, I don't
Yeah,
know in your
yeah,
home if it
yeah.
was the same as my home, but that's like
Oh
the
yeah,
thing. It's like, have you eaten yet? And
yeah, yeah,
um and it's such an essential thing. I always talk about because one of the big things I do on my podcast and when I've spoken to people and why I started this is like a lot of advocacy and building empathy through stories and cultures. And I was like, if the world could just have a freaking potluck and we could all just eat our foods and share together, I think everybody would get along because everyone loves food and everyone loves each other's food. And it's just,
yeah.
yeah, I just
No, that's
think
not
there's
true. Not
something
everybody
there.
loves food. Not everybody. I'm not gonna
I
say
don't
not everybody loves.
know. I feel like a lot of people love the majority of people love food, and I feel it
Yeah,
does bring people together. In
I think
art,
so.
music, and things like that. But I think food's the big one.
I think food, good drink. You know, yeah, it's good for the soul, man. I was like, that was. I have to. I show you like I make a map of all the places I've been, and I make it on the
Yes.
Google Maps, and it's like covered in like places that I've been to because I want to see, I want to try it, I want to explore it, I
Yes.
want to eat it all, and it's especially it's fascinating because I was like, well, let me get this straight. If I'm in Cape Town shooting this thing, and I don't take the chance to like, it's completely new. There's like smells and sights and foods and languages I never heard in my life. I was like, why the fuck would I not use it for this role?
Exactly.
Who literally is a guy who's coming across the ocean
Yeah,
to a new place.
a lot of
Like,
parallels there. A lot of parallels
what?
there. So
Yeah.
this map that you have that's so well covered, is there somewhere you haven't explored yet that you're excited to? That's on your wish list?
You mean my like a country or just
Yeah,
anywhere?
like a city or a country or somewhere that you're like,
Yeah,
hasn't
yeah.
taken me there yet.
Oh yeah. This I was supposed to go to Namibia
Oh, okay.
when I was down there because I heard it was like stunning, beautiful, stunning. And if you've ever seen the photos of like it's like red sand dunes with like dry trees, like white sand or whatever,
Oh, yeah.
that was supposed to. I wanted to try it because it was right next door
Hmm.
to Africa. But then I got my passport stolen. I got everything stolen. Yeah,
What?
long story.
Oh
Long story.
no.
Yeah, yeah. So I was
That is
like,
like my biggest fear is my passport being stolen when I'm traveling out of the country. Like it is,
yeah. It wasn't that bad, but
but you were
I
living there too though. So you had like some time. It's not like I got to get home next week. Like you were it was
yeah,
while you're
yeah, yeah, yeah,
shooting. So
yeah.
it's like you
I
had
can
some time
imagine.
to okay.
Yeah.
That's
But
still
then
scary.
I was like, it, you would think it would be scary until it actually happens. I guess that's like, and
Maybe
I was
it's
just
just
like,
your
oh,
personality. I think I'd be losing my mind.
deal with it. I was
Yeah.
annoyed. Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
well, I thought I would have to stay there and actually like forever.
Yeah. Which, when you talk about Cape Town, it doesn't seem like such a bad thing. Like, oh,
Oh yeah.
there's worse
Yeah.
places to be stranded, I guess.
You could always
Just be
call
like,
Langley.
knock, knock, Langley. Sorry, moving in until this
Langley.
gets resolved.
And Langley has a beautiful home, by the way.
I've heard, and I heard he hosted everybody, and he just feels like the resident host because he lives there. And I was, oh, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And I was like Langley is like also the mayor of Cape Town, you see.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now he's modest. He's never told me that.
No, you just wait till you see his place. I can't wait till you go there.
I know,
I
me
can't
too.
wait till you go
I
to
just,
Cape
if
Town.
all the stars align, I'm booked already and everything, but life
Really?
happens. So yeah, yeah. So if all the stars
Wait, so
align,
you're
I'll be
gonna
there.
go in the summer or?
I'm going at the end of August.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, because it's
Yeah.
backwards. It's
Yes.
from
Yes.
us.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
it'll be a
you're
little
north.
cooler. Yeah.
Yeah,
It'll be in the end of August. So yeah, I'm super excited.
place will take your breath away.
Oh, I'm excited for it. Yes. And the safari and all of it. So, but speaking of like you and your love for food and who you are, and one of the things that also fascinated me was, and continues to, is how you seemingly adapt so well to different places no matter where you are at, and that's maybe your nomadic nature. But like as a child, I think we talked last time, you were what, 5 when you went from China to the United States, and of all places like Memphis where there wasn't a huge Asian American population. And I mean, at that age, I think maybe there's not a recognition of like, oh, no one here looks like me, but you literally came from China where everyone looks like you. And so like, or looks Asian, right? Like you have such familiarity. Like, was it a culture shock for you? What was that like growing up in that environment? And yeah, tell me about your Memphis experience.
It's funny because this does come up. People are always like, "Oh man, you from the deep south? Like,
Yeah.
what was that like? Was that a culture shock?" I'm like, no, only adults talk about like culture shock. Let's be real. Like, you put a kid somewhere and ask them too many questions, they just sort of, children have a wonderful ability to just accept,
Hmm.
right? You just accept it as what it is, and that's it. And there's no rhyme or reason behind it. I just knew, you know, I remember it feeling strange, obviously, because you feel like I do remember like not knowing any language, you know, and I was old enough to remember that experience. So I still remember it being like, that Charlie Brown kind of like that. And for me, that was probably the most challenging if I think about it. But as far as like, you're not even thinking like cultural shock. It was just like this is somewhere new.
Yeah, yeah.
And you just, does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think kids are a lot more resilient than we give them credit for. And like you said, you put a bunch of kids on a basketball court, they're just going to start playing basketball. You put a bunch of kids in an
Right.
environment, they're just going to gravitate. And
Right.
I think, a lot of those complications we have is in our heads as we get older, and then the outside, noise that comes in.
Yeah.
But I was also really excited to see that you had a St. Jude Children's Hospital connection, because it's like my Wallum Kung Fu School, like that had for like 30 years, that was our charity of choice. And we've been like,
Uh,
donating to them and a part of that. And I was fascinated to see that that was the, kind of one of the main reasons where your parents went to go and work there. And yeah, so I was just really excited to see that there was like a little connection there, and
yeah,
kind of a
they're
passion.
great. They're great.
Amazing.
Yeah, they were the reason, we came here. And
Hmm.
my parents, they both worked for St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital.
Hmm.
And it's like, as I grew up, I realized, like, St. Jude is like the Empire from Star Wars, if the Empire was like really good.
I was
Does
like,
that
wow,
make
where are we
sense?
going here? This is getting
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
okay.
They're like a machine, man. They because I don't, if nobody really knows, if they don't know about the charity, basically it's a
Yes.
one of the premier research uh institutions for childhood diseases,
Yes.
especially cancer, right?
Yes.
And um so they also have a hospital wing, which
Mhm.
if you get selected to be treated there, they'll bring their whole family over there. It's 100% free. 100%. The amount of money that it takes to run this fucking place
I can't even
requires
imagine.
like their fundraising wing to be just a machine.
Yes.
But they're all doing it like it's like the best charity in the
Yes. I
world,
mean,
you know?
it's such great work. It's such great work. But you're right. It's like, how do they even continue to keep the doors open to do what they do?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
It's
the
like, what the fuck?
they're like the Empire,
Yeah.
but if it was good,
I'm pretty sure we can find a better analogy, but I know
Yeah,
what you
yeah, yeah,
mean.
yeah. Yeah, it's
I
like
was
the
like, wow, we're going
stormtroopers
dark
coming
here.
in.
What are you going to tell me about St. Jude Children's Research that I didn't know? And I'm like, oh, okay, I see where you're going with
Yeah,
this.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, yeah, it's just been, just one of those things that, like you said, it's so, if you're in that scope where you have awareness, it's so notable and everyone knows. But if you have no idea and never heard about it, it's kind of interesting, because it's like, or you don't. Like, if you know,
yeah.
right? But yeah, I think it's just incredible. And I know it is a big part of that city as well. Like, whenever you have kind of a force like that, it becomes such a big part of that. In
Force.
term Of force. Yeah. Oh
Empire.
man, you planted that in my head.
Oh, yeah. Okay, they're not the end. They're like Jedi. Okay,
There you
fine,
go.
whatever.
They're the Jedis. Yeah. Definitely. They're
The
100%
Jedi,
the
the
Jedi.
Jedi, they ain't got nothing. They ain't got shit on the Empire.
Yes.
I am a supporter. Like, if I
Oh my
was in
gosh.
Star Wars, you know where my loyalties lie.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
so speaking of Star Wars and action and things like that, I also one of the first conversations I think I had with people from Warrior was with Brett Chan.
Uh-huh.
Because he and I had a mutual friend, and we started this conversation because I'm a martial artist. Obviously, I was just absolutely huge respect for the work that he does, and
Yeah.
love the stunt team. And then he started to talk to me about the training camps and the warm-ups in the morning and all this stuff. And I love asking all the cast how much they love those warm-ups and those training camps, and what that experience was like for you. And is it like, did you have a lot of experience beforehand, and how sore did you get? Like, talk to me about that experience, because I'm always fascinated.
That training camp is like such a luxury, right? Like that's I know they say that, yeah, okay, you get a role to train the actors or whatever, right? But that is a luxury. I mean, like, I'm gonna be real. That's a luxury where you get to just have like top notch, and I'm talking top notch training to go through it. And that was for me was just so much fun because I feel like this everybody just wanted to do just a wonderful job, the best job they could, right? And especially knowing the nature of the show, like you kind of can't get away with it. You can't get away with it, I can't sit here in front of you. I can't sit here and talk out my ass saying like, hey, I'm a martial artist. Like some of these guys, I can't sit here next to being a show with these motherfuckers. Like, I can't say,
They're the real deal.
but
The Sun team's no joke.
they're
I
incredible, right?
much
And
respect.
so let's just say they did their very, very best, like every single day, to make sure that we were really to trained, truly trained.
Yeah.
And I had some martial arts experience before, but I had almost no fight choreography experience, no
Oh,
stunt
okay.
experience. So that was just like a learning curve in itself. And
Yes.
most of the day, besides the warm ups, which is physically demanding,
Yes.
but that wasn't what was, because I was in pretty good shape before from previous jobs, and
Yes. Yes.
just staying in shape. But um, what was the hardest part for me was definitely, I think, the mobility training,
Okay.
because when you have to like try to get as mobile as flexible as possible, so also to prevent injury, as as
Yes.
you as a martial
100%.
artist, it's painful. I mean, they can be, yeah, like, and especially if you have to like hyper accelerate that.
Right. Yeah, because it's like you're gonna shoot and it could
Yeah,
be dangerous for you. So yeah, 100%. Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
yeah.
I
So
bet
it
it was
was,
painful.
oh yeah, so I have to send you a video of them actually, like, you're getting pulled on it, and then they're
Yeah.
loading the
Well, I
stretch,
know you had
and
a lot of
somebody's gunning you,
yeah, you
with
had a
the
lot of like wushu trainers and they are no joke in the way
yes,
that they have been trained. And so they're like, I don't understand why you can't just do this. And they're like pushing on you.
yeah. I mean, well, I had my hips broken open when I was like that.
Right.
Like I was like, yeah, I mean, like, it's easy when you have like, they'll just tear your,
Oh my gosh. And let me just say it is not good. Like it is not what should be happening to us.
yes,
But
but
that is what they've been through. So it
that
is
is
their
what they
experience because I have trained in Beijing, so I know. I've seen
yes,
it.
that is what they've been through. But I was like in my effort to sort of um hyper accelerate this, right?
Yes.
And try to get us, the maximum results as possible. Man, like we have science now, man. We got like science now of mobility. And I've got like, and I was fortunately be able to we were also working hard. We had wonderful trainers, but one of the biggest things that I learned was just the recovery process,
Hmm.
and how, look, we're there on a job, right? But you also try not to get hurt on these on these fight scenes and in training, because you're there to, so if you go down, that's a bad thing. Right?
Yeah.
So I think that whole process was just like, was especially that first season when I didn't know anything about like load management, about about training for the fight scenes.
Yeah.
That was just like, sink or swim, man. Let's go. And then I'm just just really really working at it day after day. I would like give, honestly, legitimately, like 6 or 7 hours, maybe 8 hours a day, including like recovery and all that.
I believe
So
it.
thank
Yeah, well,
God
the
for,
work paid off because you guys look great. I mean, and it's hard too, because then you've got levels of the actors that have martial arts. You've got like Joe, and then you've got
yeah,
like, people who are like, oh,
yeah.
I don't really do this at all. And there's a little
Nah,
pressure. Is there a little like peer pressure to feel like I don't want to be the weak link? I don't want to be the one that,
there's
like you said, like
self-made peer pressure.
that's what I
Yes, there's
mean.
self-made.
Self-made peer pressure. Yeah. Like you put it on yourself.
Now you can't, man. Like, especially as I assume that you did wushu, right? And the soft weapons are very challenging.
Hmm.
Man, when they
Hmm.
told me, they were like, "Hey, this is your weapon."
I know. I was going to
I
ask,
was
did you
like,
choose that or did they put that on you? Because that's a
"No, they
really
put that
hard
on
one.
me. They put that on me." Two, like, let me
Was
take
that
that back.
Brett?
I don't know.
I'm going to talk to him. I'm going to talk to Brett and Jason and be like, hey. Who did this to Jen?
Brett, like I think he was definitely instrumental in like crafting it. But you know,
Yeah.
like when I got the role, Hong was not formed yet. Okay, like
Yeah.
it was not formed yet. I think they had a kind of an idea, but they were like, "What kind of weapon are we gonna get?" And of
Yeah.
course, it would be the most challenging
It
of
is.
the,
Yeah. I
you know, to
I
get
have
the
to say.
inlet. So
You're like,
like,
ah, they already gave Jason the daggers, so I guess you're getting the flexible weapon. You're getting the,
yeah,
the short version of the
like,
whip chain.
but I'm so glad they did because
Yeah.
and by the way, first I'm like, you know, like I always say this in all my interviews, like we can this show is not non-existent without Brett and his team. Non-existent.
Oh.
Like he is literally because he was so interesting what he was saying. I still remember him having this conversation. He was like, if you took a silhouette of all the characters in the show, you must be able to know who they are without knowing who they are by the way they moved.
Yeah.
And you know, and I kind of took that and ran with it of like, hey, this is how you move and the weapon of choice that you choose says a lot about who you are as a person, how you
Hmm.
see the world, how you know move through the world. So it was all just a hyper creative
Yeah.
process of like finding this person. I was like, who does this? Who chooses this weapon? Who? Why? Right?
Hmm.
And it's not even like the 9 section whip, it's like a 5 section
Yeah,
whip.
that's what it is. It's the shorter version of the whip. Yeah.
Right. It's like literally a custom made weapon. And it gave me so much as home. It gave me like it unlocked so much of the way I played it
Mm.
that just because of that weapon. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for sure you're as a character, but as a martial arts character, right? You are your weapon is an extension of your body, right? So what you are wielding is essentially you, right? So it's really just an extension of you. And so of course now it's hard to say because you're so at one with it. But if you were to have had your choice, was there one before you knew about your character that you would have been like, I want that weapon? Or were you just like, whatever you guys assign me is fine? Because I feel like now, after you've talked about it, you would choose it again because it's
It's
become
so
part of
unique.
the
Yeah, yeah.
character
I
and
have
it's unique. But kind of before that, did you have a preferred weapon you might have chosen?
no, like I thought I was gonna get an axe. Okay. He said
Okay.
hatchet man. A hatchet man. A hatchet man. Like I thought I would have asked for 2 hatchets though.
There you
I mean
go.
like
Yeah,
double
like a
hatchet,
double
right?
axe. Yeah.
But now that I'm like thinking, I was like, I never expected a chain. Like never expected a flexible weapon.
Hmm.
And it is, yeah, it's definitely unique. It's definitely unique.
Did you hurt yourself at any point training with it?
Luckily, no. Luckily, no.
Okay.
Because you know, I did one of the things that I found fascinating is that you know, so when I was preparing for the role, I trained in a little bit in the 九节鞭, the 9 section whip.
Hmm. Hmm.
Then I realized, you know, I mean, that's really wonderful for just understanding the nature
Yeah.
of the soft weapon. But I was like, it's actually too long. It's not actually, it doesn't cross over because as soon as you shorten it, everything changes, right?
Hmm.
So I had actually found a guy here in LA who was specialized in is a Japanese weapon called a Manriki Kusari.
Okay.
It's literally it's the same length as the chain, but it's just that it has
Oh.
2 weights at the end,
Okay.
and
Okay.
it's completely made of it's like chain link. So
Mm.
it's a I believe it was like a ninjutsu weapon,
Okay.
and that changed everything because like when it's that short and it's a hidden weapon, it was so cool. That's actually way scarier than the 9 section whip
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
they're heavy weights.
Yes,
It,
yes, and
you know,
there's less time for it to do its
and
rotation.
yeah, and rotation, and then actually when it actually hits, and because I was like actually had bought like a training set, that thing like yeah, it definitely can like I think I hit like a countertop like cracked it. Yeah.
Yes. No, thankfully not your shin.
Yeah, no, yeah, because like that thing, I mean, it was fascinating how how they use it, and to me, I was like, oh wow, that was what had become, because when they told me I had like a soft weapon, I was like, oh, like a chain, okay. In fact, they didn't even tell me how long it was gonna be because they were playing with it. I was like, well, you gotta have to know, right?
Brett's like, ah, we'll figure it out when you get here. Don't worry.
Yeah,
We'll let you know.
yeah, and as soon as like I shortened it, I remember because I had in my head I was like, oh, this guy's got like a rope dart or something, right?
Yes,
I
yes.
became, but as soon as we started playing with like a shorter one, it started feeling like a street weapon.
Yeah,
That
right.
vibe, had that energy.
Yeah,
There's
because you
no
needed to be concealed,
flowery. Yeah,
quick.
that's right. That's
Yeah.
right. So I think yeah, that was all. It was just a. I still remember the early days of just like the discovery process, and so much of it was just my training.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, kudos to you because it looks super natural and you pull it off amazingly. Clearly, it was a lot of hard work. I know that
Oh, I'm glad
there's
to
no
say.
way
I'm glad you
around
say
that.
that.
There's no way around it because it's like, you're either going to hit yourself with it or hit someone else. So hopefully you hit someone else. But
Yeah,
yeah, no,
yeah,
I mean, I know also Brett and his team are so thorough in what they
yeah,
do that they
yeah,
would not let you go in looking on, like not the word authentic because of course it's street fighting, right? So it's not supposed to look perfect. It's not supposed to look like,
right,
like you're being judged at a tournament or something. It's supposed to look
right, right.
grittier and everything, but their approach to the way they do fight sequences and their
Yeah,
approach to action, I think is just so phenomenal. Like I
yeah,
I adore this team. Like I think they're just like one of the best in the business, and just
yeah,
hearing about their camps and the care they take in their acting team and how involved they get everyone, it's really unlike any other set. So I mean, and I've had
yeah, yeah.
small bit of experience on sets, but I've never experienced anything like that. I'm always like, I'm showing up to your training camp. I don't think I'll make it through, even though I'm a martial artist. It sounds like it's hell. I'm too old for this.
Nah, you'll make it through. You'll make it through. We were all like,
I think I would be too. I think because they're so intense.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh my
It
God,
was
so
fun.
intense. Yeah, at the junket, we also had a small moment for me to talk about yet another one of my passions that I like to talk about the show because I'm such a huge activist and advocate is the LGBTQ representation. And the thing I feel that Warrior and what your showrunners have done so well is not shoving anything in anyone's face, but just characters are just matter of factly, naturally like who they are. They're not a stereotype of what you often get in these types of representation. It's just you're basically a human, and as a human, you get to portray this role, but especially in this season three, we really get to explore kind of that world and that time period and those challenges. How you had mentioned that it was a privilege and that it was just great to be able to play something so naturally, but like how I know you said it wasn't necessarily a challenge, but how was that for you kind of taking into a fact that because of the role you were playing, a lot of eyes were going to be like really opened and also people would feel so represented seeing, you know, um LGBTQ representation in this way. Like he's this badass fighter, you don't really get that a lot all the time with a character
Yeah,
like
I
Hong.
loved it. I loved that part about it because I was like, well, sexuality is such a huge part of our identity, right?
Yeah.
But it's also kind of just who you are, like you said, right?
Hmm.
And so it it was such an interesting thing for me with Hong. This guy, okay, so yes, he's gay, and it just so happens to be that he's also has this all other life. It has nothing to do with, but also simultaneously everything to do with the way he moves through the world.
Yeah.
And I say that because um, of you have to take it into context of the time period of where you come from, person's background. but it actually has also kind of it's really really beautiful to see because I do know many people in the LGBTQ community who are like outside of this what we would stereotypically call like masculine slash feminine roles, right? All of it is made by the mind. They're like, well, no, I mean, I do this stereotypically masculine job, like I'm a Marine, you know, but they're I just like who I like. So that had nothing to do with it, but also everything, it also still a reflection of their identity too. So I found that to be really fascinating when I was working on the role of, hey, this is such an opportunity to show this person as who they are. And that was also supported by the team because I had to credit Jonathan Tropper and the showrunners. They were like, first thing they told me, they were like, okay, so you know, we wrote he's a gay hatchet man, but we're not gonna put a microscope on it. He just
Right.
happened to be gay because you know there were gay people in that time too.
Obviously, yeah, but that's why it's just so like effortlessly, and again, like not thrown in your face. And I think it was so beautiful in that first conversation where I think it was you and Jason's character, and it's just like, well, why aren't you attracted to me? And you're like, oh, you'd be like, would you date your sister? And it was just such a natural conversation, and it was so humanizing, and it was
Oh,
it
that's
was just
beautiful.
so well
Yes,
done,
yes, yes.
and I was just so refreshed by it. And of course I love the freaking action on the show. I mean, Brett and teams, they're fucking
Yeah,
amazing, but
yeah,
like things like that I feel is what puts Warrior in its own class and category. Like conversations like that were just very matter of factly, and it's not, like you said, under a microscope. So
yeah.
I
Like
really
that.
appreciated it.
He was. I still remember that quote. There's like, we're not gonna put a microscope on it, and I was like, of course you're gonna say no. You like me? I was like, no. I'm like, why would I? Like, that's like asking like the most simple question ever. It's not gonna make a big deal out of things. And I
Yeah.
believe, it's weird to because nowadays in society, it's like we do make it's it's like when you make a big deal out of things, then you still got some hangups about it, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And to me, I was like for someone like Hong, I found it refreshing to just be to be able to play it as it's like you're asking him, hey, are you from China? Of course. I don't know. There's no like there's no question about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
there's that comfort with it. So it was lovely to be able to do. I really I don't take it did not take it lightly.
Yeah, it's for sure. I've had a lot of conversations on and offline with people about that, and not just this show, so many other shows, and like it really matters. Like the work you all do and the representation that you provide, it's very important. So I know it is appreciated, and like I said, wildly entertaining at the same time. Like it's so amazing to be able to have all those dynamics. And as we're recording, we are amidst the 2 weeks of binge watch, binge watch, binge watch, where we
Yeah,
really want to
yeah,
encourage everybody to give us that season 4. And I didn't get to talk to Hoon about it, but of course everyone wants to know what's happening with him. And is he gonna just lie there and die? Or do we get what's next? There's so many pieces of the character, your character, like everybody, we need to know what happens next. So I will remind our listeners and our viewers to make sure they're binge watching, giving the 2 thumbs up, doing all the things, tagging on social media, and I'll do
yeah,
all of
yeah,
that. But
yeah, yeah,
lastly, I wanted to talk about our Mulan connection, because you and I have so many little connections. It was like, I'm
yeah,
dying to
yeah,
talk to
yeah,
you.
yeah.
So I love that you got to work on the new film and the live action. Of course, I'm the old person in the room, and so I was in the animated feature. But
We got
what
Asian discount, got
but
Asian
what was
discount.
the experience like to go to China and film this epic adventure, and play one of the characters that was actually carried over from the original? Because not all of them were, but
Right.
yeah, how fun was that?
It's actually kind of a misconception. Like, I never stepped foot in China for this
Mm.
film.
Okay, but
They
there
they
were
did
parts
have
that
a
were filmed there. Yeah. Okay.
only a small part because
Okay.
they shot the Imperial City and the set there. I think they were only there for like 2 or 3 weeks or something, and then they did some drone photography through like the Gobi Desert,
Oh, okay.
right? But the rest of it was filmed in New Zealand.
Oh,
So
that's right. That's right. New
yeah,
Zealand.
so
Another amazing country.
yeah, yeah. Like, I only work in the southern hemisphere.
Yeah, yeah, obviously.
I got the southern hemisphere covered.
Yes. So in New Zealand, sorry.
Um, yeah, New Zealand, yeah, and that was yeah, that was my first time actually. I'd been on some big sets before, but I was like, well, this Disney is you are in the world. I was like, yeah, we're supposed to be marching in an army. I was like, oh, I think maybe they're just gonna like CGI it. No, they just made an army with horses and the drummers, and they just like kind of followed us. It was like 200 strong. So
Yeah.
I think that to me was to this date, I will still say one of the great experiences of my life to be able
Yeah.
to go and experience that.
Yeah. What an epic set that sounded like. And it's interesting because you just mentioned that, and just this morning, my husband was showing me a clip from Axios's newsletter where it's like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to remember the name of it, Sky or Solar, the new AI where you can just say, here's a scene in New Zealand of an army of 200 soldiers marching, and it
Mm,
fucking just does it. Like there's these little
cool.
digital clips, and it's wild. And it's clearly going to change the landscape for filmmaking, for television, for art, for writers, for actors. It's going to change so much. And this is one of the big, why we all went on strike too, for SAG-AFTRA, to just kind of see how we can secure
Yeah.
um our futures. But like, what are your thoughts on things like that? Because it's the inevitable, right? There's no stopping this
Hmm.
train. It's
Hmm.
going. Um, how do you see all of this technology that's coming out, as somebody in the industry, and with all these changes that are going to be happening? And I don't know, maybe it's like before talking pictures and they're like, no, that's never going to be a thing. And then of course everybody's going to watch talking pictures. There's hardly any silent films. Maybe it's just
Yeah.
the next iteration of that. But this feels this feels like, I told him this morning, I'm like, it's like fucking Total Recall. We're like in the
Yeah.
future. We are
Yeah.
there. And it's wild.
Yeah, and we're just scratching the future, right?
Yeah.
Look, I personally, how I feel is weirdly optimistic. Yeah, I get it. Okay, like it's gonna change everything, but it's also I'm a futurist. I'm truly like I believe in the future. I believe in the beauty of technology and what it could do, and it is going to be far more pervasive and far more like it will be far more affecting to society as a whole than I think anybody has any idea about, including the people who are making it. And so I like to think of it as like to make an analogy. Before we used to all ride around on horses here,
Mhm.
when they came out with the horseless carriage, it replaced that to a large extent. But we still have people who enjoy riding horses.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so, if you're taking the human element out of something, you're taking that and automating it and giving it, and eventually, this is still on a very, very beginnings of this. And this is something that I believe will grow at a geometric rate, right? And it's going to really, I have some thoughts on like how, without rambling too much, I do have some thoughts on like, what would happen because, it could be we're on the process of creating new life. What truly artificial intelligence is sentient, self-learning machine. And to me, I can't help but be fascinated in awe of it more than scared. I'm not. I don't think I'm so much scared of the unknown as I'm fascinated in what it could be. Right? It could be something, an intelligence that is completely different than what we would create as human. when we think of it as human. And I don't know enough about it to have like a further conversation, but I
Hmm.
am excited with what it could do to our industry. I'm aware that it's going to like affect a lot of people's livelihoods, our jobs, and everything. But also, the internet did too.
Hmm. Hmm.
I'm old enough to remember when we didn't have internet.
Me too.
Right? Dial-up was it? Like the internet was. People were like, "Oh yeah, you can send an instant message. Like you can send an email instead of writing
Right.
a letter."
Yeah.
Right? And I'm like, "That's as far as you thought of the internet. Look at it now."
Hmm.
Right?
Hmm.
We're having this conversation on the internet.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can call my grandmother right now and be with her immediately, right?
Hmm.
Like what are these things that were unimaginable only 20 years ago?
Hmm.
Imagine like 10 years from now,
Yeah.
and it could be what it could do. So it's going to be far beyond our industry. So in a long-winded answer, I think how I feel about it, I'm fascinated by what's to come.
Yeah. I feel the same way. I don't know very much about it. I have like a minuscule, like I said, it was literally just in our inbox today, and because we don't really take in the news now because it's just too depressing. And so we get like sometimes a little snippet of like, here's 5 things that are whatever. And you read it, it's so much different than hearing it, right? You can't, you
Mm.
lose a little bit of the craziness. But I was fascinated by it because of course, the last couple years of Chat GPT, everybody's talking about this and this and this. But when I saw this video and it was just like literally 3 sentences, and they're like, and this is what has been produced from it, I was floored. I mean, on the flip side of the scary, quote unquote, is like, wow, so many more people can be creative now that maybe didn't have the means to make a small film or to be able to express, right? And on the flip side, it's like, oh my gosh, this is going to affect so many people. So my brain goes all over with it as well. And I am for sure by no means any bit of an expert or know anything about it. I was just fascinated by it. And since you kind of brought that up, that you're like, oh, it's such a normal thing to throw out CG. And I have a lot of friends in the stunt industry, stunt performers. And as a former stunt performer, it's like we've always been saying, okay, when are we going to be, extinct? When is that not a thing? And I can see that becoming, the harder part for AI to kind of do right now. But I mean, all the things one day for sure. But you're right, there are the people that will always gravitate towards the models. Like people were like, oh no, I like that this was filmed on a set that was built and it was real and we could touch it versus like that beautiful CG background. I mean, I think it's a user experience thing and it's very personal, but at the end of the day, it's, hopefully can just be used as a tool for good for the
Yeah.
Jedis and not the Empire to bring us all
Yeah,
back full
yeah,
circle.
yeah, yeah. Um, it's interesting because I think one of the great experiences about what art is what makes it really fun, and I believe what elevates it to being really great is when it's the unexpected, the unknown. It's like I didn't even know I was going to do that, or yeah, I didn't know I was going to make something like that, and that to me is I'm excited to see what AI could do in that regards. I'm not sure if it's there yet, where it's like there's a sense of beautiful chaos that comes with not knowing, and that's where all the like the wonderful spontaneity comes about. I don't think we're stupid, we can. There's almost something. That's why you can't take your eyes off it, and to make it even full circle. That's why when I was in Africa on safari, you're actually seeing these animals. They are wild and they're looking at you. And I still remember. I remember thinking why I felt so present is because number one, you're not the top of the food chain. Number two is you don't know what they're going to do. Yes, it's relatively, safe in a way, but it's not. It couldn't, you don't know. You don't that sense of not knowing what's going to happen is the reason we like snap. We're like, oh, okay, we're gonna. we got to pay attention now.
Mm.
And so I think who knows what AI will do, but there's a sense of I feel like there's still a sense of people wanting to quote unquote control things that is a detriment to art, to creativity. I'm interested to see if it could be something that could be, has that sense of like unexpected spontaneity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that is what will eventually elevate it to like art.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah. I love your optimism. I'm pragmatic. I don't want to call myself a negative person, but I'm very pragmatic. So I'm always cautious. I'm very cautious. So, but I think that it's interesting because it sparks really, fascinating conversations and questions to be asked. I mean, and this is how we learn, right? This is how we grow.
Yeah.
So I don't want to take up all of your time today. So hopefully, we'll go on a third date together and you'll come back on the show again at some point, or maybe I'll catch you in person in 3D form. And then we can continue the conversation. But thank you so much for giving me so much time today, and for allowing us to get to know you a lot better and to kind of let our audience kind of hear more from you. And I will tag all the Netflix things and the asks from our audience. But is there anything else you'd like to share with us, or anything you can share that you're working on? I know a lot of these things are always secrets.
Not currently. Yeah.
Secrets. All right. So
but I am yeah, I'm really grateful to have met you, and meeting people like you are just reminds us that this show is part of that. That's like there's a special spark, and it's because of fans. Like the fans are amazing. Like for some reason, I don't know why, they just really support this show. Really,
because it's awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome, but this is like, yeah, I guess it's like, it's like a family thing. It's like a family. It's like family, and I appreciate you giving me so much time.
Okay, thank you so much. Until next time.
That's all for today's episode. Thanks for listening to The Sifu Mimi Chan Show. Please subscribe and rate my podcast on your platform of choice and leave a review. You can become a patron of the show at patreon.com/SifuMimiChan to help keep this podcast going. Follow me and interact on social media at Sifu Mimi Chan on Instagram or Facebook.